2020 was bad, and 2021 isn't looking great, so you'd be forgiven for wanting to run off and live the rest of your life in a virtual world. But with so many games to choose from, which are worth your time and which are wastes of money? Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Drive-Hayes, and today I'll be answering the question, should you play Old School Runescape in 2021? We'll be looking at several areas of the game and then deciding if it's worth playing. Drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more MMO stuff, and ring the bell so you don't miss a single video. As usual, a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters and Twitch subs who make all my content possible. Right, let's begin. What is Old School Runescape? RuneScape was an MMORPG released back in the mid-2000s that became very successful, and over the years it grew and evolved. Now, many believe it reached its height around 2007, then a few years later some major changes happened, including new graphics, an entire new combat system, and an introduction of a cash shop. And while that game is still going, branded as RuneScape 3, many people missed what they thought of as the golden years. So Old School RuneScape was released, a copy of the game as it was in 2007, same graphics, same gameplay with its own dedicated development team. Over the years, it's moved away from the RuneScape 3 version and has its own plot and characters and items, but it always kept the 2007 heart and soul. There's no WASD movement here. It is a bird's eye top-down isometric style view, and you click to move. The world is made up of small square tiles and you can't jump. Platforms. You can play Old School RuneScape on PC or Mac by downloading the game's official launcher from the website. It's not yet on Steam, but if you're going to play for a while, you'll want to use the RuneLite launcher. It's a third-party program that's been given the nod of approval by Jagex, and it basically adds a load of quality of life updates. But one of the reasons Old School RuneScape is so popular, though, is because it's got a mobile client, and it's fantastic. They've managed to redesign and rescale the Old School UI to be perfectly playable on mobile. And the best bit? PC, Mac, and mobile players all share the same servers, so you can play with your mates no matter how they are playing. Cost. Old School RuneScape is free to play with an optional monthly membership. The free game contains a huge amount of content, and you're able to train most of the game's skills and complete a few of the quests. And once you've decided you like it, the monthly membership is $11 or £7 a month, getting cheaper if you buy the 3, 6 or 12-month packages. The members game is absolutely massive. There's hundreds more quests, loads more skills, and a vast amount of minigames and bosses here. It is probably the best value membership for any MMO currently available. Old School RuneScape doesn't have a cash shop as such, but you can buy bonds, items that you can then redeem for membership or sell to other players for in-game gold. This means if you need gold in the game quickly, you don't need to buy it from a gold selling site. You can buy an official bond from Jagex, then sell the bond to another player for gold. Also means if you want to redeem membership in the game without using real money, you can spend in-game gold to buy a bond and then become a member for a bit. Themes. Old School RuneScape is a medieval fantasy MMO heavily based on English legend and mythology. The starter city of Lumbridge is named after the English town of Cambridge, where the game was originally made, and the game features several famous English landmarks, such as Camelot Castle and a questline involving King Arthur. The pop culture humour references continue throughout, with quests and NPCs alluding to an array of cultural things, such as Monty Python, Blackadder, and Star Trek. Races and classes. Old School RuneScape is a bit different when it comes to character builds. There are no races, everyone is a human, and there are no hard-defined classes. Instead, you can train all of the in-game skills, and providing you have the required levels or quests completed, you can equip any piece of in-game armor. It's a completely free-form system where you can use the attack style you want, either close-up melee fighting, distanced ranged fighting, or magical spells, while equipped with whatever you like, even if it doesn't make sense. Certain types of weapons or armor either increase or decrease your strength or weakness to a certain style. Wearing ranged armor gives bonuses to ranged combat, but doesn't actually stop you from using magic. It's the simplest system of wear whatever you like, but be aware there's advantages and disadvantages, and it's this simplicity which actually gives it the potential to be extremely varied and complicated. This freedom is not only loved, it's actively embraced. It's somewhat of a badge of honor in Old School RuneScape to say you've not only done something difficult, but you've done it in less than optimal equipment. Combat. While RuneScape 3 has updated its combat system with flashy abilities and an adrenaline meter, Old School is extremely basic. It's a tick-based click-and-wait system. You click to attack an enemy, they retaliate, and then you wait until one of you is dead. It's deceptively simple, and on the surface actually looks quite boring, but something appearing simple doesn't mean there's not a lot going on. Endgame players have discovered how to manipulate the game's internal tick clock and either mitigate or avoid damage, maximize the effectiveness and efficiency of damage-stopping prayers, or stack several hit splats at the same time so you can KO an opponent before they can heal. It's not flashy or over the top, but it is easy to understand for a new player and surprisingly deep for an experienced one. Solo play. Old School Runescape is one of the most played MMORPGs in the world and features some of the oldest and well-structured clans in the history of gaming, but despite having so many players and even quests that require you to work with someone else, it's actually very solo friendly, going so far as to have an entire game mode dedicated to solo play. If you want to join a guild and chat and trade with other players, you can, but if you want to solo this game and have it be a challenge, you can play as an Iron Man. Iron Man characters can still use the same servers and can still chat to other players, but they can't trade with them or use the Grand Exchange, which is the game's player-to-player market board. Becoming an Iron Man means collecting your own resources, making your own supplies, and taking down bosses on your own. If anyone helps you, you will not get the drop. Then you've got Hardcore or Ultimate Iron Man, even harder challenges. With Hardcore, you can't die, and if you do, you'll lose Hardcore status, and with Ultimate, you can't use your bank, limiting your playthrough to what you can wear and carry only. And people have maxed out accounts on these limitations. If you're looking for an old school hardcore gaming experience, this is likely going to scratch that itch. Personal journey. Old School Runescape does have a central plot, although it's possible to play for years and never touch it. You start the game as a lowly adventurer and meet people, travel to places, and, as is MMO lore, eventually kill the avatars of the gods. You are important to the world and you do matter, but it's not because of a prophecy or a destiny or a magical reason. It's often because you just happened to be in the right place at the right time, or you agreed to help and refused to give up. Personally, I think this is the best way to tell a story in an MMO. You are not the chosen one, but you chose to be the one. As for the quests themselves, I'm confident in saying Old School Runescape has some of the best quest writing of the entire genre. It's up there with the Elder Scrolls Online and is probably only beaten by RuneScape 3. The quests are never go kill X or go collect X, that's actually a separate skill entirely called Slayer. The quests are actual stories with you involved. They help you understand the characters, shape the world, and discover the reality of the secrets of Gielinor. While many players choose to spam through the quest dialogue to get to these sweet rewards at the end, if you're after a well-written story with understandable character motivations and some genuinely saddening deaths, Old School Runescape has got you covered. Also, if you like puzzle quests, try and do Song of the Elves without a guide. I dare you. Player base and active players. Old School Runescape is one of the most played MMORPGs in the world. It's just below World of Warcraft and about equal with Final Fantasy XIV. One of the game's greatest strengths is, unlike Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, you as a player are not forced to choose a home world. You are able to hop between any of Old School Runescape's active servers at any time, so if you and a friend both play, you will be able to meet up. No worrying about home worlds or different servers. Old School Runescape and RuneScape 3 have some of the best systems for letting people play together of any MMO. Now, clans can chat using the clan chat system, and you can even send private messages playing the other version. If you're on RuneScape 3 and I'm playing Old School, we can still talk, even if we're on PC or mobile. Along with in-game players, the wider RuneScape community is absolutely enormous. The 2007 Scape subreddit is one of the biggest subreddits. The YouTube content creator community is giant. There's hundreds of thousands of Old School RuneScape Twitter users or Twitch streamers, including me, and the cosplaying community is substantial. Beyond all that, you've got the wiki, and I mean it when I say this. I believe the Old School RuneScape wiki is the most thorough and comprehensive wiki of any MMO ever. There is information about every item, every quest, every enemy. There are drop rates, locations, hints and tips. This game has been documented completely. You will never ever have any issue finding information out for anything in Old School RuneScape. Beyond the player base, the development team is very active on social media and the subreddit. And you can tweet any inane question you have at Modash, the lead developer, anytime, day or night. He just loves answering everything. Early, mid, and late game. Old School RuneScape plays almost uniquely in the MMO world because the transition from early, mid, to end game is almost unnoticeable. You start the game collecting resources, completing quests, and killing enemies. You end the game collecting resources, completing quests, and killing enemies, except now the resources are rarer, the quests are longer, and the enemies are tougher. Because the content within RuneScape is evenly scattered around instead of all focused in one place, you'll find players of all levels in all places. Yes, the starting town is full of new players, but it's also the location of an epic quest, so you'll see higher levels running past. The main city is a melting pot of everyone. Even the world bosses will see groups of medium levels competing with smaller groups of higher levels. While there are high-level mechanics and places like the endgame raids or solo bosses or skilling guilds, the game doesn't begin at endgame. It begins the moment you start playing and then just gets better. Along with that, one of my personal favourite game design elements, Old School RuneScape doesn't really do expansions. They just add content at a steady rate, and they don't devalue older items frequently. If you have the best items in the game, take a year's break and then come back, you will still likely have the best items in the game, even when they release objectively better things. Because of the player-driven economy and market demand and difficulty in getting over the top things, mid-level equipment holds its value exceptionally well. PvP. Old School Runescape is one of the most active PvP scenes. I'd actually argue, in relation to the player base it has, it's the most active PvP game. Old School player versus player is legendary. You've got the dangerous PvP wilderness to the north and the one-on-one duel arena to the south. Even full PvP worlds for the brave of heart, and the occasional dead man mode, where everyone starts a new character, gains as many levels as they can in a short time, and then everyone fights to the death for an actual cash prize. If you want an active, passionate, and sometimes toxic PvP community, Old School RuneScape will happily provide. Amount of content. Old School RuneScape has a dedicated team at Jagex, and they've been pumping out game content for years now, and in a unique twist, the suggested content gets presented to the community as a poll and voted on. And if the votes don't reach the threshold, the content isn't added. This means over the years, many skills and expansions haven't been added, because the developers are free to create interesting ideas, and the community is then able to use its collective understanding of the game to decide if it would be a good thing to have. This has led ultimately to the awesome situation where Jagex actually do listen to and value player feedback. The best thing about the content is how much you can choose to ignore and have the game still be massive. If you want to play the game without ever touching the Grandmaster quests, you can. You can choose to avoid the combat or the skilling or the PvP, and if you do, you'll still find thousands of hours of the game you are playing. You can play RuneScape for 10 years and not max your skills. You can play for 15 and not have done every quest. Old School RuneScape is a long-term MMO filled with short-term things to do. So is it worth it in 2021? Old School RuneScape is one of the MMO industry's big five, the 5 major games that will definitely continue to have a very long and varied life, with low PC requirements, super simple playability on a smartphone, and eventual plans to move to Steam. Old School RuneScape is a titan of the genre. It has been around for years and will continue to be around for many more. It's an MMO you can invest time in and be sure your time will still be relevant years down the line. If you can look past the dated graphics and superficially dull gameplay, you'll find one of the genre's best offerings, a game you can fully immerse yourself in and a community millions strong. It's one of my personal favourite MMORPGs and is absolutely worth diving into in 2021. Cheers for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you decide to give Old School RuneScape a go, and drop a like on the vid, sub to the channel, and ring the bell for more MMO content. A huge thank you to all my supporters on Patreon and Twitch who make all my content possible, and you can support the Patreon from only £1 a month. Link is below. Or you can join the Discord or chat to me on Twitch. Thank you for your time, and as always, have a great day.